So, you want to hear a story, huh? Fine. Pull up a crate, keep your fingers out of the flames, and don't touch the merchandise. That last part is important. I learned long ago that people confuse warmth with charity. Fire is free. Ammo is not. And before I forget, no refunds. You want the big truth first, the thing that hooks into your ribs and drags you closer? Here it is. I sold guns to a man who saved my life, and I sold guns to the psychos who tried to take it. When that man, Roland, fell, I cried behind the counter like a fool. Next morning, I opened shop on time. That's not hypocrisy, that's Pandora. That's me. Marcus Munitions, 5th of the name, 7th generation of Kincaid steel. The gunbringer, if you ask the more devotional among us. Don't ask. You hear that little chime? That sound built my kingdom. Vending machines in the wind, coughing up fresh carnage. You won't find better merchandise anywhere else. I've made sure of that. It's not bravado if it's true. Competition is unhealthy for competition. Me, I am robust. I am diversified. I am insured by distance, deniability, and a charming smile. When you think murder, think Marcus Munitions. Don't quote me at church. You see this flask? Dents tell the story. That dent there? Atlas. That long crease? Dahl. That oily thumbprint you can't scrub off? That one's mine. I grew up watching bigger fish circle the dust like starved sharks, bleeding people dry in exchange for a handful of fancy logos and a box of promises. I learned under them, yes, apprenticed the way people do here, by getting underpaid and shot at. They taught me procurement, logistics, how to smile while counting the knives on the table. Then they taught me the most valuable thing, how to watch them leave. When corporations pack their toys and go home, they leave behind two things. Angry men who used to have bosses and very, very empty gun racks. I filled the racks first. The men, they filled themselves with stories, vaults, aliens, glory. It all amounts to the same metric on my side of the counter, throughput, 7 generations of Kincaid. The portraits used to hang behind the register until a tink brought a buzz axe inside and decided our family line needed ventilation. Now the old faces live in my head, and that's cheaper on glass. Marcus 20 looked like a ledger with a mustache. Marcus 30 smiled like a safe with teeth. Marcus 40 me, my father believed in teaching by invoice. Son, he'd say, the difference between a fair price and a good one is the part you don't apologize for. He died to a ricochet the week before my first shop turned a real profit. I bought the bullet back from the bandit who wore it around his neck, melted it into this coin, and flip it whenever I have to choose between bad customers and worse ones. He always lands heads. It's a rigged coin. I have standards. You want the bus story, don't you? Everybody does. The first 4 vault hunters, Brick, Lilith, Mordecai, Roland, picked up like strays at the edge of civilized road and dumped at Firestone because that's how we do onboarding here. They piled off like question marks with guns. I looked them up and down and saw product categories. Heavy, soft, precise, principled. 4 flavors of appetite. People think I narrate because I like the sound of my voice. I do. But I also narrate because stories close sales. A good story makes a bad decision feel like destiny. Why do you think I start with, so, you want to hear a story, huh? It gives permission. It gives framing. It tells you the bullet you haven't bought yet is already halfway to your gun. This is an important principle. Write it down. In your head, I mean. Pens are extra. Firestone was dust and rust and half a plan. We had vending machines that coughed like smokers and echoes that glitched whenever a skag sneezed. We had Dr. Zed, which is like having a doctor if your definition of doctor includes owns a saw. We had bandits stealing from bandits and a vault roomer fat enough to feed a planet. Into this comes a soldier with standards, a siren with a temper, a drunk with a bird, and a wall of meat with a heart. You need to understand. I didn't believe in them at first. I believed in demand. I believed if they lived to lunch, I'd sell more bullets by dinner. Then the living turned to legend. And legend, that's recurring revenue. There's a girl sometimes in the stories interrupting, asking me if I'm making half of it up. The answer is a salesman's secret. I am making all of it true. Listen close. This is how truth works on Pandora. Truth is what keeps you breathing. The rest is branding. You want warranty with your truth? Pick one. I can't afford to honor both. I sold to everyone. I say that without shame and with a little pride. Crimson Raiders needed rifles that wouldn't jam when blood got into the bolts. Bandits needed anything that went bang when their courage didn't. Lance deserters wanted something light enough to run away with. I did not ask them which flag they preferred. Flags burn. Credits spend. But there are lines even a vulture won't cross. Remember Handsome Jack? Pretty face, bad soul. He wanted everything neat. Neat vaults, neat obedience. Neat piles of dead stacked so high they made shade. I like shade, but not that kind. So I did something off-brand. I gave guns away. Did I do it for the raiders? No. For me. Tyrants are bad for repeat business. Dead men don't shop. And a galaxy with one voice is a bad market to advertise in. Ah, you're waiting for Moxie. Everyone waits for Moxie. She was my third mistake and my best lesson. We married in between sieges, which is the Pandoran version of a honeymoon. She taught me numbers speak louder than love, and I taught her interest compounds faster than apologies. People say she told me to put on weight so enemies would underestimate me. It's true. I was handsome once. It got me shot at for the wrong reasons. Now I am a mountain with a register. Better odds there. We divorced, we danced, we invested in a bank that exploded more often than it balanced, and we stayed, what is the word, profitable to each other. Don't sigh like that. You live long enough here and you'll measure romance the way you measure shrapnel, by how much of it you can carry without bleeding out. People whisper about the time I sent hunters after my greatest treasure. They expect a vault key, a platinum ledger. They found pictures. A man is allowed a sentimental lie in his ledger. I sell reality all day. I can afford a dream in the drawer. It didn't change the price of rockets, it changed me a little. That's a frightening admission, more dangerous than talking credit with a psycho. Mark it down as an expense on the heart. Then there were the bloodshots. Ha! You haven't lived until you've walked into a bone and gold cathedral built in your image by men with more tattoos than teeth. The gunbringer, they called me. They lit candles with flaming buzz axes and sacrificed, well, something that used to scream. Do I worship myself? No. I hate mornings too much to be my own god. But did I understand what happened? Of course. Give desperate men a miracle, a crate that shows up the day they have no bullets left, and they will build a myth to match the relief. I sent them guns once so the raiders wouldn't take a bullet from behind on a day they were trying not to die from the front. The Bloodshots thought salvation wore my beard. Religion is what happens when logistics feels like mercy. Roland. I keep circling him. He deserves that. He was a man of lines, drawn ones, held ones. He hated that I sold to bandits. He told me so often, with that voice like the inside of a safe, heavy and final. And yet, when New Haven fell, he brought me to Sanctuary, tucked me behind walls and soldiers and the kind of hope that eats bullets for breakfast. He would bark and I would shrug and we would both go back to saving the world in our different, equally ridiculous ways. When Jack took him from the story, the shop went quiet in a way no failure ever caused. I said he was a good man. I did not say it to sell anything. Sometimes you say a thing because not saying it would be theft. After that, I noticed the small things more. The way a hunter would lean on my counter when the weight of their backpack became the weight of their dead. The way the vending machine chime would sound like a lullaby when Sanctuary shook. I heard myself on every echo speaker. The jokes, the push, the sing-song that moves inventory. I thought about turning the volume down. I didn't. People needed a rhythm, the chime, the joke, the click of a fresh mag. Rituals matter. Ask a priest, ask a bandit, ask a widower buying a scope he can't really afford. Let's talk about Sanctuary like what it really was. Not a city, not a cause, a supply chain. You can have all the courage you like, and you should, but it doesn't feed itself. Sanctuary moved because my machines moved with it. We bolted them to the deck, strapped them in, and wherever we parked the sky, there we were. Bullets, biscuits, and bad advice, 24/7. That's civilization, not statues, not speeches. Stock. Stock is the difference between a memory and a future. I say all this so when I tell you I am not a hero, you won't argue. The word is heavy. I sell weight, not carry it. But I am responsible. There's a difference. I am responsible for the machines that chime when you're almost out, for the ad that makes you laugh when your hands are shaking, for the policy that keeps you alive and keeps me solvent. Goodbye, friend. If you shop anywhere else, I'll have you killed. People think that's a joke. It is. Mostly. You want the origin of my no refunds? A story, then. A young man with new boots, a bandit swagger, and a gun that would have been fine if he'd cleaned it. He points it at me, says it misfired. I point mine at him, say he misbought. There's a negotiation here, in the old days, where you weigh pride against margins. I used to play it. That day I didn't. I shot the counter beside his hand. Splinters. Silence. Then I put a sign up and made a commercial you've probably seen. Why so harsh? Because life on Pandora already gives out refunds, and they're always in blood. I declined to compete with that pricing model. Now the part where I explain what I'm doing out here by a barrel, telling stories to a face I can barely see instead of behind a counter with better lighting and worse company. This is post-game, as the Echo commentators say. There are nights rare and valuable when the wind doesn't smell like melting plastic and the stars look like the bullet holes of a god who missed. I sit by a fire on those nights and breathe without counting the cost. I think about the next war. I think about the rumor the Watchers whisper, something big, bigger than Jack, bigger than Calypso's with microphones and insecurity complexes. A war that needs everyone, even shopkeepers, especially storytellers. The truth is I tell these stories because I am selling you something you can't buy from a vending machine. Useful fear. The kind that keeps your finger off the trigger until the sight is steady. The kind that makes you check the chamber twice before a breach. The kind that teaches you to laugh so the shaking doesn't win. I sell bullets so you can live to buy more. I sell stories so you can live to decide whether you want to about very good at turning pain into it. Enough sentiment. You'll get the idea. I'm going soft. Let's inventory some lessons. 1. Never trust a customer who calls you friend before they count their cash. 2. Never sell a man a weapon you don't know how to break yourself. 3. The second cheapest thing in any war is courage. The cheapest is ammo, if you know me. 4. If a vault hunter asks for a discount, tell them a story instead. They'll leave with an extra magazine and think you did them a favor. 5. If a child asks you how heroes are made, tell them heroes are what survived the invoice. I see your face squinting in the shadows. You're thinking about the cult again, about shrines with my bearded profile hammered in brass. You're wondering if I ever asked for it. No, I know better than to ask for worship. Worship is a kind of debt you can't collect without becoming what they say you are. I prefer the debts that end in numbers, but I also know something more uncomfortable. They needed that shrine, and I gave them the reason. A crate arriving exactly when the morale runs out feels like a miracle. Men will call the hand that lifted them divine even if it came from a forklift. If I am a god, I am a god of timing and maintenance. That's a very boring religion. Good. Boredom keeps people alive. Now, the unreliable narrator part. You've heard the rumor that none of this happened the way I say it did, that I polish things, that I sell you legends like surplus grenades. Good rumor, healthy rumor, keeps me honest. Here is my guarantee. I will never lie to you in a way that gets you killed. I will lie to you in ways that keep you brave, or careful, or both. I will cut the boring parts because boredom kills more than bullets. I will exaggerate the enemy's teeth if it buys you the reflex to duck. That's not deceit. That's inventory control, on fear. We're approaching the part where I pivot from past to what comes next. I don't know if you've noticed, but the air tonight tastes like old lightning. That usually means something big is thinking about breaking. The Watchers mutter their riddles. The Iridian stones hum in tones that make your molars itch. The corporate logos on the shipping crates look nervous, and that's not easy to print. I have begun stockpiling in places I never cared about before. I am teaching small hands how to clear a jam without losing a thumb. I am telling jokes colder than the wind to children who have never seen daylight without dust in it. Why? Because I know a coming war when the ledger shivers. When that arrives, here is what I will do. I will choose a side sooner than I like. I will sell at a loss to people I can stand to hear laughing. I will deny service to men whose smiles look like receipts for things I can't afford to be part of. I will arm those who carry the wounded before the brave. I will keep the machines humming in the places where the stories say heroes tend to return to when the dust is worst. I will refuse refunds. I will offer replacements where shame is cheaper than death. I will call that charity and I will put it under marketing because names comfort men who think in columns. Let's close with a few accounts that never made the ads. A bandit once came in, shaking like a tin roof in a cyclone. Said he wanted a rocket launcher big enough to change my luck. I sold him a mid-grade and an instruction. Stand behind something solid after you fire. He returned 3 days later missing 2 friends and 1 bad habit. He said thank you like it tasted new. I put his thank you on the shelf where I keep strange coins and decent regrets. Another time, a raider kid, too young, too tired, asked if I had anything that wouldn't make her shoulder cry. I gave her a stock I had meant to sell as premium. She didn't have the credits. I said first one's free. She said, why? I told her the truth. Because I want you to be my customer later. She lived. She returned with a smile that bought 2 more. That is how economies get built when the banks are bones and neon. There was also a man with a laugh like gravel and a plan like a bridge made of wishes. He wanted to steal from Jack by stealing back hope. I gave him a crate with the wrong serial numbers and the right endings. He died. his friends didn't. You will not see that in a commercial, not because it is sad, but because it is true in a way that cannot be packaged. Some things you keep off the billboard to keep them from getting cheap. Do I ever think of closing the shop for good? Sometimes, when the purple in the sky quits its whispering and the grass, yes, there is grass in places if you know where to look, decides to act like it believes in tomorrow. I imagine a quiet, a chair, coffee that doesn't taste like melted screws. But then some poor fool discovers a new kind of bandit who can smell weakness at 20 paces, and I remember I have a job. My job is to make sure weakness has a better price point than evil. Call it civic duty. Call it self-interest with manners. Call it Marcus. Inventory of scars since we're getting cozy. Left shoulder. A doll foreman who thought the invoice came with me. Right calf. Skag pups who mistook me for lunch money. Lower back. The time I tried to carry a crate I should have used a loader for. Across the chest, under the hair. Yes, there is hair. I am a mammal. Congratulations. That one is moxie-shaped, which is to say elegant, expensive, and a lesson in reading fine print. Each scar is a story. Each story is a warning mislabeled as a joke. You see the pattern now. We are nearly done. You have been patient and not stolen anything visible. I respect both. Before I let you go, because that is the fantasy, that I can let anyone go on this planet, let me say this like a proper closing ad. Capitalism, baby. It's not a religion, despite what the bloodshots sing. It's a tool. Like a wrench, like a grenade, like a story told by a warm fire to someone who needs to remember where to put their courage when the sky turns violent. Tools don't care who uses them, but the man passing them across the counter can. I do. Not enough to lie about it. Enough to stay open when it matters. So here's your receipt. You learn that I sell to everyone, but not to everything. That I cry sometimes where no one can barter with it. That I loved in a way that counts only when the ledger is closed. That I worship nothing, and yet I respect altars made of timing and need. That I believe in stock and stories more than speeches. That I will be there when the sirens start, behind glass that got replaced yesterday with a smile that's half welcome, half warning. Take what's useful, leave the rest in the ash. When the wind tastes like old lightning again, and it will. Remember who kept the shelves stocked and the jokes cheap. Goodbye, friend. And if you shop anywhere else, you know how the policy goes.